Donald Trump is attempting to sell a lie that Chicago is overwhelmed with violence and terror in order to justify deploying U.S. troops onto the streets of that city. But the reality is there is not a big violent mayhem in Chicago. But there are residents getting disappeared off the street by ICE. MSNBC correspondent Jacob Soboroff is on the ground in Chicago and today witnessed the aftermath of a woman getting snatched by masked Customs and Border Patrol officers and put into an unmarked vehicle. And this video you're about to see was taken by a neighbor who was also on the scene when this happened.
Señora, no tiene que decirles nada si tiene papeles.
Hey, ciudadana americana.
What's your, yes I am. What's your badge number?
Are you a United States citizen?
I am. Are you?
You are? Okay, I'm going to need you to stay away from here. All right?
Señora, ¿cómo se llama?
Hey.
Señora, ¿cómo se llama?
No estoy impidiendo la investigación.
Señora, ¿cómo se llama? Para decirle a su familia. Don't touch me. You're not allowed to touch me. Señora, ¿cómo se llama? Dígame su nombre. Dígame su nombre. Look at guys. Look at this fascist right here. Señora, dígame su nombre. Grítelo.
She's in.
¡Grítalo otra vez! ¡Grítalo! ¡ICE está aquí! ¡No salgan! ¡ICE está aquí! ¡No salgan!
Joining me now from the Broadview Detention Center outside of Chicago is MSNBC senior national correspondent Jacob Soboroff. Jacob, you have a follow-up update, as I understand it, from the arrest video we just played. Tell us more about that.
Jen, since I was on that street and after that apprehension happened, we have learned that that woman's name is Maricela Rosales. She is 53 years old. She has been in the United States since arriving here from Mexico 30 years ago. She has a family, and tonight she's here inside the Broadview Detention Center, and we know that because, as we were reporting earlier today, on the street in Cicero, Illinois, a young woman came up to me and said, I'm looking for my mother. I haven't seen her, and I fear she might have been detained by ICE. Her name is Samantha, and I pulled out my phone to show her some of the video that we had, and I want to show you a little bit of what happened next. Watch this.
Señora, ¿cómo se llama? Para decirle a su familia. Don't touch me. You're not allowed to touch me. Señora, ¿cómo se llama? Dígame su nombre.
We can stop if you want.
Dígame su nombre.
Stop.
Look at guys. Look at this fascist right here.
That's her. It's her.
I'm so sorry to be the one to show you this picture of your mother. What's it like for you to see her there with her ponytail and her backpack and her pink sweatpants talking to these guys with guns and masks and their bulletproof vests?
I mean, based off her facial expression, she looks ready to cry. And that saddens me because she just wanted to go to the store. She was going to make some albóndigas, which is basically a meatball stew.
She just wanted to go make a
meatball
meatball
stew.
stew.
Supermarket. Yeah, a meatball stew. A meatball stew, Jen.
It's so powerful to see this, Jacob, and you're so tireless on the ground. I know you also have video of CBP officers appear to be harassing someone who was filming them on the street shortly before Maricela was arrested. The Chicago Tribune reported that federal agents have pointed weapons at people recording. We've only seen what we see on video, but when you talk to residents of these Chicago neighborhoods, how do they feel? I mean, are they terrified? I mean, I would be.
Don't take it from me, Jen. Let's watch the video. This is what happened in the moments before Maricela was actually apprehended by the Border Patrol. And this was a video taken by another community member. Check this out.
Do you guys have any identification on you?
Yeah, you see it. It's on our vest.
Do you guys have a badge number or a name?
No, you don't need all that.
I don't need. Why don't I need any of that?
You have ID on you?
Do you guys need my ID? What's the reason for stopping me?
What's the reason for following us, honking your horn?
You guys are going through a neighborhood and you guys are stopping people on the street with no reason.
Well, I suggest you stop following us, all right? Otherwise, we're going to arrest you for impeding your audit.
I'm not impeding anything.
We're
right
letting
now.
you know this is the first warning and last warning.
Okay.
You got that?
What are your guys' names?
This right here.
As far as what we are hearing, the National Guard, first of all, it's illegal, unconstitutional, it's dangerous, it's wrong. This is not about deportation. This is not about safety for this president. This is about authoritarianism. It's about stoking fear. It's about breaking the Constitution that would give him that much more control over our American cities.
Hi again, everyone. It's now 5 o'clock in New York. More escalations to report in the standoff between our commander-in-chief and American cities he doesn't like. Today, as leaders like the one you just heard, Chicago's mayor, call out Trump's desires to deploy federal troops to the streets of cities run by Democratic elected officials, as Trump in the Oval Office yet again raised the prospect of invoking the Insurrection Act. Today, notable not just for the growing clash of rhetoric, but of troops actually appearing on the ground. The Texas National Guard has arrived in Chicago. The Chicago Tribune reports that its journalists, quote, saw several military members dressed in camouflage and carrying long guns on federal property in the far southwest suburbs Tuesday morning. Soldiers who had T patches on their arms identical to the one shown in a picture tweeted by Texas Governor Greg Abbott on Monday could be seen walking in and out of mobile sleeping units on the site, end quote. The presence of these out-of-state troops comes as a judge declined to immediately respond to a lawsuit filed by the state of Illinois, which we covered on this program yesterday. That lawsuit said the Trump administration's efforts to send in the National Guard against the wishes of the state's governor are illegal and unconstitutional. The judge in this case, U.S. District Judge April Perry, said she needed time to go through the government's response to the suit and scheduled a hearing for Thursday, giving Trump and his allies a small window of time to send troops into the Windy City, an opportunity they are seizing upon. But as Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said to our colleague Rachel Maddow last night, taking this step could be risky before the judge officially rules. Watch.
Well, the judge did warn the federal lawyers that if, in fact, they brought those National Guard and put them on the streets, that would be a really bad idea because there may be a ruling against them in just a couple of days. And I might add that if they do deploy them to the streets and then they are ruled against, I mean, how embarrassing to have to turn tail and run back to Texas 2 days after you've arrived in Chicago.
Chicago being in the state of limbo for a few days stands in contrast to what has happened this week in Portland, where a judge did temporarily block the administration from sending in National Guard troops from other states. The Illinois Attorney General argues in the lawsuit filed yesterday, quote, the American people, regardless of where they reside, should not live under the threat of occupation by the U.S. military, particularly not simply because their city or state leadership has fallen out of a president's favor. That is where we begin the hour. Some of our favorite reporters and friends. MSNBC senior national and political correspondent Jacob Soboroff is on the ground outside Chicago. Also joining us, staff writer at The Atlantic and a contributor to The Atlantic Daily Newsletter, Tom Nichols is here. He's a professor emeritus of national security affairs at the U.S. Naval War College, where he taught for more than 2 decades. Plus, host of the Bulwark podcast, MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller is here. Jacob, I start with you. Just bring me up to date since we talked exactly 24 hours ago of what you're seeing and reporting on the ground in Chicago.
Well, as you said, Nicole, you know, the big development of the day is that the National Guard from Texas is now here. But I think that the point that I believe everyone needs to understand and that is crucially important for us to make is the reason they're here is because the President of the United States and his allies are calling this city and Cook County and the surrounding areas essentially lawless. The situation is out of control. It requires the National Guard to put down and protect not only the federal agents here, but widespread violence across this city. That is not what I have seen in this city at all. And in fact, if they are indeed going after the worst of the worst, we, MSNBC, witnessed the exact opposite today. And I want to tell you one specific anecdotal story that we saw here in Cicero. This is the most Hispanic community in all of Illinois. 89%, almost 90% of the people who live here are Latino or Hispanic out of the 90,000 people. This is what's happening in the streets of Chicago, all around Cook County and in the Chicagoland area. And the folks that they're going after are not the worst of the worst. And I cannot say that more unequivocally and clearly enough. Maricela was going, as we talked about, to buy meat to make a stew. October 31st, Halloween, would be her 54th birthday. Samantha, her daughter, told us she wanted to buy her perfume for that birthday, and she was saving up until she was paid with this paycheck from her job in order to go and do that. Now what Samantha is doing is trying to find her mom inside this facility after those very agents picked her up off the street today. Jen.
There's been reporting today, of course, that there's more coming tomorrow. We'll see what happens. I'm sure you'll be reporting for us. I remember in L.A., when you were reporting from the ground, people sort of were staying in their homes. They weren't going to work. People were afraid of going to school or going out into the community at all. Are you seeing the same thing happen in these communities in Chicago?
Oh, yeah, there's an absolute chilling effect. I was just actually checking my Instagram direct messages, and someone messaged me. It said, hey, I was taking a run earlier today while you were interviewing those people, and I ran right by you. I also saw down the street ICE agents in a particular vehicle engaged in another operation. And the message is basically that people are terrified. Their daily activities are being interrupted by armed and masked federal agents on the street. You don't have to wait for the National Guard here to see militarized federal policing on the streets of Chicago. It is already happening in a city that is largely peaceful. Nobody's saying that there aren't violent parts of this city and that violent crime doesn't happen, just like they do in red and blue cities and states all across the country. But what local leadership is saying here is, give us the resources and we will handle those problems with grants to do community-based policing. We don't need troops on our streets. And we don't even need to wait for the National Guard because those troops are already here. That's why Governor Pritzker said in that press conference yesterday, as you highlighted before the break, that he believes this is a pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act and having troops.
Trump and the Republicans are trying to sell fear again. And this time they're using Chicago as their stage. The narrative goes something like this. The city is in chaos. Violence is out of control. And the only way to restore order is by putting American troops on the streets. But when you actually look closer, that story falls apart completely. Chicago, like Portland, isn't some war zone. What's really happening is far darker. Peaceful residents, some of them living in the US for decades, are being grabbed off the streets, yoinked, just kidnapped by masked federal agents in unmarked cars and masked faces. That's not law and order. It's intimidation dressed up as policy. It's a stunt. An evil stunt, a political move by Trump and his allies to create the illusion of danger so they can swoop in as the supposed saviors. The people being targeted are not criminals or gang members. They never were. These are moms going to buy ingredients for dinner, workers picking up coffee before a shift, neighbors living their normal lives. These are communities that already struggle with fear and mistrust, and Trump's approach only deepens that divide. Even worse, the legal justifications are laughable. Federal agents claim they have the authority to operate in Chicago because Lake Michigan somehow counts as an international border with Canada. It's a reach so absurd that it would almost be funny if the consequences weren't so serious. People are being taken, families are being separated and ruined, people's lives are ending, and the administration's response is not even just silence, but glee. They've posted videos about this. They can't even give reporters a straight answer about what's happening, and yet they're glad they're doing it. This move has nothing to do with actual crime. It's entirely about control, about optics and headlines that make Trump look like a strong man, while local leaders are left trying to calm their terrified communities under attack by the federal government. When National Guard troops start appearing in their camouflage and their tactical gear from out of state, invading, ignoring governors and court orders, the situation stops being about security and becomes an open display of authoritarian power. So while the Trump team talks about protecting America, their actions show something else entirely. Peaceful cities being turned into what looks like military battlegrounds, but definitely political battlegrounds. These are human lives that they're trading for their campaign optics. And no amount of law and order branding can hide the truth. What is unfolding in Chicago is state-sponsored fear for no reason other than to cause terror for the communities and people who live there and to concretize Trump's own power.